If there's one thing I've learned from my time in the domain name industry is that investors love their tools. If there's a new tool, they want to try it and see if it helps them make more money, save more time, or find more diamonds in the rough. Today's show might just include that tool you've been searching for. Stay tuned. I have 3 short sponsor messages before we get into today's show. First, if you're a domain name investor, you have unique intellectual property needs, and you need an IP attorney that understands them, that follows the industry, and can help you navigate UDRP, copyright, and trademark laws. David Westlow of Wiley Ryan is the lawyer to call for internet legal issues. Second, if you have a great domain name and nothing to show when people visit, you're missing out on potential advertising revenue, leads, and partnership opportunities. NicheWebsites.com can build your site quickly with a price option to suit any need. But as their tagline says, they don't just build websites, they build businesses. Finally, if you're buying or selling a domain name or a portfolio and you want an estimate of its value, Estabot.com is the place to go. Just like you'd visit Zillow.com to get an estimate of a house value, Estabot.com provides key information about the most important statistics so you can make an informed decision based on data. All 3 sponsors have a clickable banner in the upper right-hand corner of DomainSherpa.com. Here's your program. Hey everyone, my name is Michael Seiger and I'm the publisher of DomainSherpa.com, the website where you come to learn how to become a successful domain name investor and entrepreneur directly from the experts. There are a ton of who-is services on the web, but very few historical who-is searches or brand monitoring services. And there's a new service in the marketplace that we're going to learn more about, and it might offer some benefits you've been wishing the others had. Joining us is Simon Johnson, an internet veteran from Australia and director of IPneighborhood.com. Simon, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks for having me.
Simon, so for anyone that's not heard of IP Neighborhood before, because it's a relatively new service, how would you describe it to them?
I'd describe it as a competitive intelligence tool, probably one that is upper level, certainly that I haven't perhaps used before or had available. There's a lot of free stuff out there. There's a lot of stuff that's a little bit old, but you know, we've really tried quite hard over the years to make an enterprise grade tool that provides you with all sorts of info on domain names and websites and trademarks.
Very cool. So right off the bat, I want to talk about something that struck me from your intro, is that there are a lot of tools out there. You know, I know some people will go to Google and they'll do searches and they'll try to do reverse searches on somebody's email address to find out other domains they own, because there are other spiders out there that will search for them and store that information, and they're not very comprehensive. I know I use a service that's free that actually looks up by email address and shows other domain names, but it's very it's not complete at all.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you pay what you get what you pay for, essentially, in that
That's
state.
right.
And I should start off the interview by saying that there might be times that we refer to domaintools.com and throughout the interview. And I don't bring it up because I want to promote them during your interview, Simon, but I want to bring it up because I know a lot of people in the industry use domain tools. They've been in the industry for a long time. They're sort of the incumbent. And so it's easy to compare a new tool against a benchmark that people are familiar with. And so, you know, I'm not going to do it a lot, but one of the things that I'll do right off the bat is, you know, domaintools.com is $50 a month. And I know I use it a lot, and I know a lot of domainers use it a lot, but I also know other domain investors that don't use it because it is $50 a month. What struck me about your service right off the bat is that its price point is significantly lower. How much is IPneighborhood.com?
Well, it's half that. It's half of Domain Tools, and it actually gives you double the amount of credits that you would otherwise get on their more expensive plan. So, you know, yes, Domain Tools has been in the market for a very long time. We knew that, obviously, getting into it. You know, they're a very strong some would say monopoly, that have been around for quite a while. And, I had the view, as did many others, that, the industry in that particular niche was broken, and we wanted to create a disruptive service to come in there and raise the bar. When you've got an incumbent that's been around for a long time, that's based on, say, technology that was developed very early on. Yes, it has a lot of information. We think we can provide a better service. So that's what we've gone and done.
All right, and that's what we're going to learn more about today. When did you officially launch ipneighborhood.com?
We actually didn't go through a launch process. We only just turned it on. We contacted a few people, literally maybe a month or two ago, right. And got some feedback, got a lot of users using it, and, it's brand new. A lot of people haven't heard of it. Some people may have seen some of the tools in some of our other products, such as in Domainer Income, but it's largely a new service, and there's a lot of information there.
There is, and so we're gonna talk about that. What was the impetus for building a suite of domain name tools like IP Neighborhood?
Well, it all started back when we had our domain name investment platform, Domainer Income, quite some years ago, and we really took a stock trading approach to it back then, and we developed an online platform where people could search multiple aftermarkets, and they could value domain names, and they could track their portfolio. And we also broke up things like, expired domains and expiring domains. So if people wanted to find diamonds in the rough, they could, or if people wanted to find domains at auction, they could. So what we've done is we've built on the information that we've gained back then and prior for our own research, and we've put it together in a business grade enterprise tool with some other things that businesses are after, such as trademark monitoring, for example. So what we thought we would do is generate a suite of tools with that depth and breadth that actually solve problems for the community, not just for domain investors, but for the businesses and corporates at large.
Right. Great. I'd love to go back in time to find out how people got here, because I think a lot of people learn that you can't just sit down and say, I'm going to develop a suite of tools that help me understand the security and the history and the did I say security already? Sort of the background of a domain name. And so how did you first get involved in the internet, Simon?
Wow. It's an interesting story. I'll make it brief. I actually first used the internet way back in 1989. It was well before the web. Yeah. And back then, it was all Unix prompts and VAX machines and things out of university. And it was an academic network. Right. There was a bunch of people on it. You could fit all the websites onto 2 pieces of paper. Right. There wasn't really much there.
Yeah,
so
it sucked back then.
it was terrible.
I had to have this little crib sheet next to my VAX terminal monitor that all the commands that I needed to run in order to learn stuff, because nothing was point and click.
So if I said to you set def, you would know what that meant.
Exactly.
So that's where I started, and I had a kind of a purist view of the internet, and along came the web, and I thought, wow, this is very slow. How is this going to happen? And I remember back in the 90s, I started one of Australia's first ISPs, literally called ISP. We had the domain isp.com.au.
So that was in 1994 that you first registered that domain. Yeah. ISP.com.au. A very long time ago. Yeah. So I want to pause your story for 1 second there. Tell me how you got isp.com.au.
Well, believe it or not, you couldn't actually, that domain was taken. We had to acquire it. We actually bought the name. from somebody. We had the business ISP and internet service providers, and we said, well, we want that name, so we just went out and bought it.
Very cool.
Simple as that.
Yeah. So this is before, I've met so many entrepreneurs, successful people in business that first started off in the ISP world. They ran ISPs, and then there was a big ISP roll up, and that's how they made a lot of their wealth. So I'm always interested to hear how people got into it, and being in an ISP early really gives you a background in so much of the internet that's important.
Yeah, and look, before ISPs, there was dial-up modems and FidoNet and all the other proprietary networks as well. So, there's a long history there, but it's a little bit by the wayside now. But that's how it really started. So for me, I'm a technologist. I understand the technology. Wouldn't consider myself a programmer by any stretch of the imagination, but that's my background.
Got it. And what happened to that ISP Australia's first ISP that you started?
Well, we sold it. It's quite simple. We sold it. I moved on. I literally saw an emerging area in security and risk management, given all the issues with internet and particularly around firewalls and lots of companies getting online and connecting up. So did a lot of stuff around that. Established an IT security firm and a security search engine, literally called Security Search. Cool. It's all out there on the web. And that was acquired by a security company in around the 2000 mark.
Around the 2000. So did you sell it before or after the .com crash of 2000, 2001?
I think there was a lot of. It could have been after, actually. There was a lot of pressure. I remember those crazy days. A lot of pressure. People saying, "Oh, you should sell. You should do this." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, maybe." But as it happened, it was just for us. It was just a phone call. Somebody rang us up and said, "Hey, we really want this. You've got a." Something of value. You've got, thousands of members and subscribers. We want it. So,
who did you sell that to?
It was a company called GFI. There's a press release out there, I'm sure, online about it. They made security scanners and things at the time. We've never disclosed the terms, but
yeah, I couldn't find an amount.
Yeah,
was it more than 6 figures?
That was all under NDA.
Was it more than 6 figures?
That was all under NDA.
You can't be under NDA still.
I can't talk about
that was more than 10 years ago.
I stick with my NDAs, but what it did give us is the ability for me to sit back and think about what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I ended up after that a book on internet safety for parents, and saw the emerging, domain name forums and things like that, and just went, what? I think I'll do this. This is pretty cool. So
yeah, and so at that time you started doing acquiring more domain names, and clearly you understand the value of domain names as early as 1995. One of the earliest, buying isp.com.au. That was a great acquisition. Do you remember how much you paid for that, by the way? Back in 95? Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, it would have been in the 5 figures. I don't remember the exact price. I know it was in the 5 figures.
Sure.
But
and so after you built a security search engine and the security company and consulting, and then you sold it and you wrote a book, or more than one book, or at least one book.
Yeah. I did a lot of writing back then, and
you were in multiple magazines at that time.
Yeah, I'd written for a number of magazines.
So did you decide that you wanted to get into domain names at that time, or was domain names just a contributing skill set to internet marketing, which I know you have a background in as well?
Yeah, I think the internet marketing space was kind of taking off, and domain names were really, in terms of drop services, and the industry was still in its infancy. I know back then there was a few forums around, like DN Forum. I think there was maybe 1 or 2 of them. but it was really more enthusiasts, and certainly back in the 90s, nobody had really an idea that these things would be worth something. I remember raising it, actually. There's a funny story of me raising it in a university lecture. And I remember talking about news.com as an example. And I said, these domain names, they could be worth something. And I was literally laughed out of the theatre. Everyone was like, "What are you going to do with that?" And I said, "Well, if I registered news.com, I could just hang on to it." And they're like, "But that's like $100, and you got to send all this stuff by fax, and you got to talk to the Americans, and all this sort of stuff. Who wants to do that?" And I just went, "Yeah, well, kind of no one's really buying."
Yeah,
these
it does sort of sound like a dumb idea when you put it like that.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm kicking myself, and I still hold two of my dear friends responsible for changing my mind.
Good, you should hold them responsible.
But this just happens. It's been a journey. It's just something that through trial and error and being in the right place at the right time, you just understand.
Yeah. So how big is your domain name investment portfolio today in terms of the number of domain names you have?
Look, I'd say we've scaled it back quite a lot over time.
Mm-hmm.
When we first started out, it was, "Oh, wow, this name looks cool. Let's just buy it and add it to the pile."
You don't do that anymore?
No, we don't do that anymore. Much more conservative. But for us, we made all the textbook mistakes. So I'd be addicted to auctions, and I remember there's a video floating around. I took my family out on a holiday once, and I was up at 5 o'clock in the morning bidding on domains, and on this beachfront place overlooking the Gold Coast, and then I thought, yeah, I might have a problem here. So look, in answer to your question, we've scaled it back. I generally don't reveal stats and things about our business. I'd say it's pretty reasonable. It's not huge. It's nothing to write home about, but keeps us happy.
Less than 5,000?
It keeps us happy.
All right.
Less than 10. Look,
less than 10,000.
All our domains, bar ones that we can't do, are under WHOIS privacy. We're quite protective. But some of them you can find out. They're on the web.
Yeah.
Use IP Neighborhood.
I know. I'm gonna go do that. I'm gonna ask you to do it when we're doing the tutorial portion of this interview. All right. All right. So you're not gonna tell me how many domain names you have. You're probably not going to tell me you're definitely not going to tell me the entire valuation of your domain name portfolio. Let me ask you this. By TLD, how does your portfolio shake out? So if you were to give a percentage to .com.aus and a percentage to .coms and others, how would you think it shapes
That's a really good question. I'm a big believer in .com. But let me just state right from the outset, always have been a big believer in .com. .net as an alternative and .org are relatively okay in terms of, if you're looking for a domain that you can't get the .com, sometimes you try the .net.
Yeah.
In terms of proportions, I would say maybe 20% might be .com, maybe about 30 or 40 might be .com.au, and there's a reason for that. I'll go into that later. The rest will probably be .net and .org. We generally stay away from other CCTLDs. There might be a few exceptions there, and I know that, say, I've got a .co for my blog and a .org for another one of my blogs. So there, and literally the reason for that is there is another Simon Johnson who owns a very large company, a fine food company. So
they beat you to your own name.
You know what? I never thought. This is just me and my naivety. I never thought someone would just go and register my name, and so I didn't bother with it until I noticed this just one day. Bang! It was all gone, and I went, "Oh, that's not very nice." So I literally spent three 3 or 4 years in auctions, and I finally got the .org 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's a year ago. So I'm slowly clawing it back.
Yeah. Well, you're not alone. It took me, I think, 6 years to get my last name .com, and I've operated off the .org ever since, because 2 months earlier than when I reserved it, thinking, okay, I'm going to get an email address. What should I go for? I'm going to go for Saiger.com. 2 months earlier, it was reserved. So, so no .me's, no .tv's, none of those
we
cool
had
URLs.
We did run domaineorincome.tv when we did a series of interviews, but other than that, no.
A couple.
No. There's no real point. I mean, for me, it's, you know, that the strategy to acquire names has got to have an end goal associated with it. So it's all very well to stockpile things, but for me, it's like, well, what are you going to do with it, and how's it going to rank, and how's it going to make you money? Yeah. I'm not a big believer in just, you know, acquiring dot whatever .me or .mobi or what. It's pointless.
Right.
So, you know, that's just something that it's just my belief over over the years. And let's face it, you know, when you're dealing in a lot of domain names, registration and renewal fees can hit hard. So I think it's better to err on the side of caution and not go there.
All right, Simon, this is the part of the interview where we're going to flip the camera onto screen sharing, and you're going to share your browser, and you're going to walk us through 5 different use cases that a typical domain name investor or a business owner would have that they need to get information, intelligence about, and we're going to see it in action with your tool. Sound good?
Oh, great.
Simon, it's amazing that there are so many features in your software. Can you run us through the main areas of your software in, you know, a minute or two, just mousing over the main areas and giving us a quick understanding of what's in there, and then we'll dive into some areas in detail after that?
Sure. So I guess when we looked at developing IP Neighborhood, for us it was about developing something that's modern, that's fresh, that solves problems, today's problems in particular. And we grouped a large number of tools under some categories. So for example, you know, over here we have like an intelligence category, and you can look at, say, domain history. So I won't click on these and go into these because there's a lot of tools, but you know, essentially when people wanted to know who owned a domain name or what the current registration is, they can go in there and they can type in someone's name. So if you want to do a historical who is search, or if
Simon,
you want to see...
hold on one second, bud. I got to back you up. I didn't hit the record button on GoTo, so I'm not sure if it's working. Let me give you the intro one more time. I apologize.
Oh, okay. That's all right.
I'm going to pick it up from right here. Simon, it's amazing how many features you have in ipneighborhood.com. Can you run us through the main areas of your software suite so that people get an overall idea of how it's put together? And then we'll go through after that and go into the 5 specific use cases. But we'll start with sort of an overview of IP Neighborhood.
Sure. What we wanted to do was to create something that was fresh and modern and enabled people to dive into the data. And that's something, I'm a data guy. I want to know that, you know, if I go into something, I want the depth and breadth to see what's what. So when we developed this, we decided to develop a number of categories. One was an intelligence category, which had everything you could ever possibly want to know about a domain name. And we solved some of those problems, such as, say, domain history, where people said, who owned my domain name last year, or who currently owns it now. Due diligence was really about finding out metrics, be it trust metrics or SEO metrics or third-party backlinks, anything about a domain name. So when you're performing some due diligence, if you want to buy or sell a name, that's the place you go to, and it gives you everything on one screen. And look, there are a number of these, and we have so many tools. I might just skip a few, but you know, when people say want to do a reverse IP lookup, for example, you want to see how many domain names and websites are on a competitor's server. You can go into IP Intelligence and type in a name, and up they'll come. And the same with, say, website hosting. You can do the same thing. You can learn all about web hosts and name servers. And I guess one of the big ones for us that hasn't been featured anywhere is auction intelligence, and that enables people to look at who's buying what at domain auctions globally across multiple markets. So intelligence is a really big one. Brand protection is the other one, where people can go and manage their domain name portfolios, and they can also look up trademarks both in the United States and here in Australia. So if you're wondering if your domain name is trademarked or if you might be infringing on someone's intellectual property, that's the place that you can go to.
Cool.
Or even if you have a name that you love and you don't want to buy a trademark, but you just want to make sure that if someone comes along and registers one, you get told about it.
Right.
You can put an alert in there. The domain name section is really perfect for domainers. So we've some people who've used Domainer Income before might recognize some of these categories. So you can search multiple aftermarkets, expiring and expired domains. So expired domains meaning domains that are available now and you can go and hand register. You don't have to participate in an auction for. And new domains, and a little affiliate domain name finder tool, which we might go into later.
Yeah, that's a cool tool.
Yeah, it matches up affiliate offers with domain names.
Yeah.
And I guess finally, the valuation area, and that's really about domain sales and historical sales. So you can type in a name if you specialize in a particular niche, and you can see, thousands of sales that are associated with that. You can keyword search that. That domain sales is also the data in domain sales, I should say, is also found on the domain sales iPhone app that we developed quite some time ago. So, if you've got access to that, you'll get access to this.
Yeah, and that's a cool app for anybody that has an iPhone. I've got that one in my little domaining section, and you can just fire that up, and it shows IP neighborhood right there, and then you can look up the latest sales. Just by typing in the keyword. So it's quick access to, a lot of the information that Ron Jackson puts out on a regular basis on Domain Tools, plus a host of other auction sites that you pull in information from, right?
Yeah, that's right. And it's free.
Aftermarket. Yeah, and it's free. Excellent. All right. So we've got 5 use cases that a typical domain name investor or entrepreneur might want to run today or tomorrow after listening to this show. 2 acquisition cases, 2 monitoring cases, and 1 monetization use case. So if we go to your system, you're probably going to need to sign in, I take it, Simon? Because you don't, I should point out, there is no free trial. There's no free account like on some other sites.
No.
Why is that, Simon?
Well, we used to run a free account with our domain name investment platform on Domainer Income, and we actually found a lot of people just abusing the service, just signing up over and over again, and that put a lot of load on our system, and also a lot of people scraping the data and reproducing it. So, what we did was we introduced a day pass, which was literally the concept of get access for a day. It costs you less than a cup of coffee, and it's just a little hurdle. It's not substantial. I think it's like $4.95 or something. So, if you really are serious about it and you want to sign up with very little risk, then go right ahead.
Yep.
And so that's really a way of offsetting that, and that means that we can have a system that's available and fast, depending on also our API users who like to hit it.
Right.
And that's what we've done.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So let's go ahead and sign in, and we'll do the first use case.
That's remembered my credentials.
Oh,
how lovely.
You are already in. All right. So our first use case is an acquisition use case. I want to look up, let's say that it's a classic scenario. Maybe I want to, I found a domain name I like. I know it's registered because I've gone to any host of Whois services. You have a Whois service as well. Right in domain history or domain due diligence to look up Whois?
History.
So let's say, boy, I hate to use my own example. Did I provide an example? Let's see here. I didn't.
I'm quite happy to give you an example, and it's something that that I think domainers might like, in that a lot of people, when they look up who is history, the typical example is they go and type in a domain name, and then they get other names. But just a little tip, something I've learned over the years is, not all companies register names under their parent company.
Right. And
not all names are also registered using the same email address.
Right. And some of them are under privacy if they, for whatever reason. But let's say that you knew a domain name you wanted and it was under a person's name and you could see their email address and who is, which everybody has access to. And you want to make an offer, but you want to find out if that person is a domainer and has 2,000 domain names, or if they're just a person that's got 5 other domain names. They're just probably a techie or a small business person. So, they're not using it.
Let's use an example.
Okay, so Wired.com, so the magazine Wired.
Yep. So take Wired.com as an example. Now, currently right now you can see the registration and admin contacts for, say, Condé Nast and Advanced Magazine Group. And what domain name investors also need to look at is these relationships. So, for example, if you clicked on, Condé Nast publications, you could pull up a list of their names. There's Allure and others.
Wow. So all you have to do is click right on their names, and you get an entire list of all 613 domain names that are registered with that name as the registrant.
Correct.
AlabamaGlamour.com. Wow, that's cool.
But I'll show you what's cooler. Advanced Magazine Group, you can... now, I haven't even looked at these guys.
Yeah.
But how many?
So you may see the same domain names because it may have Advanced Magazine Group as the
registrant name.
Okay.
But what you can do is you can find out. You can get these lists and you can look at it and say, all right, what are the relationships there? Where are they registered under? You can look at some of those emails. For example, if we scroll down and look at the technical contact email is domains at Condé Nast, but that is domain admin. So we can do things like click on domains at Condé Nast, and you find, well, he's only
another
a little sample.
6 or 7 or 8 domain names there that may not have been found in the other ones. So just by clicking on that name, which I should point out, you gave me a free trial account right before this interview so I could play around with it and become more familiar, Simon. I didn't even realize that those were links. And I was going to ask you, how do you get access to this? Because you said that it was there. So these are very cool just clicking on, because I'll just point out that, the free services that I use online are not as comprehensive as probably what's in your service. Now, do you know, and I should point out that other competitors actually charge $50 or $100 or on upward based on how many domain names it knows are associated with that domain name. So let's say if you're a lawyer and you're running a reverse whois on all the domain names owned by a specific or associated with a specific email address, they're going to charge you more for a larger report.
That's right.
Whereas this is all included.
Correct. We don't charge based on the results that are in the database. So if you do a search and you click on, and the search comes up with 1,000 results, we're not going to suddenly hit you up for, a $1,000 report.
Right.
And the information is there when you need it. So, you don't have to generate a report or download it or get someone else to generate it or whatever. My philosophy was, if you want the information, it should be there. Now, that kind of puts a bit of a load on our servers. Yeah. Because, it's be quite easy for us to say, you know what, we know what you're searching for. We'll run a batch report sometime when we're free, and we'll give you that information later. For us, it's like, no, you want that information now. So if you're a lawyer and you're in a meeting with your client and the client says, hey, I think they're cyber squatting on our name. Right. A lawyer should be able to come to IP neighborhood, type in the name, and get a list.
Yeah.
So
and see if they're squatting on other
thoughts.
domain names, which then they can use in a UDRP or whatever that case may be.
That's right.
Very cool. And so can you export these domain names somehow to look at them in Excel or massage them or things like that?
We haven't added that feature yet.
Okay.
We will. But for us, it's really right now we're in, having just launched it, it's about getting all the data in there and making those relationships accessible. So you can scroll through, you can see them for yourself,
and copy them out, and you're working towards a download option. So that's powerful right off the bat. Being able, so if I was the other day I had a need to see how many other of a specific keyword domain name a person had that I was inquiring about the domain name, and I've got all the information right here, which will help me make a more informed decision about whether I should make an offer right off the bat or just inquire and see if it's for sale. Yep. Excellent. All right. So anything else under the intelligent? Oh, let's look at, so 2 questions on this, domain history. One is how people are going to want to know how comprehensive the data set is in determining if you have all of the domains that are associated with domain_admin at advancedmags.com, for example.
Yep. That's a really good question. It's a bit of a domaining myth and something that many domainers don't really understand. So let me just spend a minute explaining it. There are some domain extensions like com, net, and org who publish lists of domains, and we get those lists, and our competitors get those lists. Okay, so do we have a list of every single .com domain today? Yes, and the same with net and org.
Right.
But there are CCTLDs that don't publish lists. So then it's about, okay, how do you get that information? How do you know a domain exists? Because the reality is that when you register, I don't know, a domain over in, let's use Australia as an example, .com.au. If you register a .com.au, the only person who really knows about that is the registrar and you. And of course, the provider that you're using.
Because they don't provide a list.
Correct. They don't provide the list.
I can go do a whois lookup on isp.com.au to see who owns it, but I would have to think up every single domain, do a search, and scrape it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, the reality is there are ways we can use our own internal data and external data, and we put together, lists of CCTLDs where that information isn't available. Now, that's the reality. It's not it's not a unique problem to us. It's an engineering challenge, and it's something that the industry has to battle with. So for me, I'm very much open and transparent. I'll tell you how these things operate. So to sort of say, well, and domainers say it all the time, how many domains are in there, and we say, well, however many we can get, and that changes on a daily basis. Now, in relation to historical whois, that's a different kettle of fish altogether, and really that comes down to how long we've been amassing data for. And what we didn't sort of turn on a service and say, well, today we're going to start getting data from here onwards. We've been doing this a long time, and a lot of the data that we have and some of the tools that we have is based on some of our own domainer income data. And even when you go back into things like domain sales are based on data that we've had for many, many years. So, we know that we're playing catch up, and we know we do some things really, really well, and in others areas like historical whois, there's room for improvement. So we don't pretend to be the silver bullet. I'm sure there's going to be names that we don't have, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of names that Domain Tools doesn't have. So you can compare them both and for yourself. That's my advice.
Gotcha. So if we scroll down on the screen that you have right now, it should show us who's owned Wire.com before Condé Nast became the registrant. So this is an example.
It would if we had it.
If you had it, right.
And you can see that the domain was registered in 92.
Okay.
So the other thing we do, and that's not found in a lot of other tools, is we'll tell you how accurate or dated the record is.
Yep.
Okay. So that tells you how fresh the information is. So, for us, it wasn't, hey, trust us, our information's great.
Right.
We want to prove it. And, the way that we go about it is we'll tell you when we last grabbed the record. Now, having said that, if you type in a name that we don't know about, and sometimes that happens, the system will automatically go and fetch that record.
Okay.
So it might take a second, and it will tell you, hey, we don't know. We've got no idea, but wait a second, we'll go get it.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. So for us, it was, it wasn't really a big problem for us, because a lot of people say they just want to know who currently owns it. The problem that they're trying to solve is who owns it now and what other names do they have?
Exactly.
Because I want to sell them something. So that's where, or I want to buy their name, or I want to price a name. So for the problem that we're trying to solve was, okay, they can look up domain history and find out who owns it now, but they can also use other things like IP intelligence and find out a list of other names that they own.
Yeah.
So you can combine these things and really come to a more accurate conclusion on a name than, say, just using domain history by itself.
So right off the bat, I'll and I know a lot of people realize that I'm a straight shooter when it comes to stuff. I'm just trying to educate people equally. I love domaintools.com because I can go and say, I want to buy this domain name from Simon Johnson. If I ask him directly how long he's owned it, he may not tell me. I can go look that information. And they've got a great database because they've been doing it for years. But then I'll pay my $20 a month and come to you and see how many other domain names you own and do a little intelligence on it so that I can get a better idea of how serious an offer you might expect because of the domain names you do and how you operate. So very good information. Let's move to our second use case, Simon, auction intelligence. Let's go to that section and tell us why investors might want to use your auction intelligence tool. Well,
this tool we actually developed for our own in-house use. And I think it's one of the most powerful tools out there. I've never seen any tool like it, and I'm not blowing my own smoke. I actually genuinely believe that this is such a game-changing tool, and the reason is that in the domain name industry, there's a lot of hype and there's a lot of bravado of who owns what domain and what did they buy last week, and so for many years we've had this tool, and we know who the serious buyers are and who are just the Mickey Mouse weekend casual domainers that, overstate what they're doing. Now, we decided to put this live on IP Neighborhood. So it has a lot of information in there and it tracks auctions on a daily basis. We like to say real-time basis, and I'll get to that in a sec.
Okay.
But essentially what it does is it gets all the information from our domain sales feeds and from our partners, and it puts it into one easy to understand screen where you can search on things like keywords, or you can look at who bought what when. Now, why is this valuable? Why should you care? Apart from the whole voyeuristic, oh, look what they bought today. You should care because if you sell domain names, this gives you a huge database of who's actually bought domain names in that niche. So if you're a domain broker and you're sitting on a pile of names and you've gone through your Rolodex and you want to know, you've contacted the usual suspects and they've said, oh yeah, kind of not interested. All of a sudden you can target people who have bought similar domain names already, and you know how much they paid and when they paid for it.
All right, I'm chomping at the bit here, Simon. Let's get into the tool. I want to see how this works because, all right, let's get into the tool. So do you have an example, or do you want me to throw out a keyword?
Oh, I don't. Maybe I can just show you just quickly a few little tips and tricks about the tool, and then you can throw out a keyword. I don't mind.
Yeah.
what this does when you visit the auction intelligence page, it gives you a listing in real time.
Okay.
So,
So these are domains that just sold today in auction?
Have just sold either today or, depending on the volume of auctions at the moment and how we get the data, it might be yesterday, but they're worldwide. Now, when you see this, you might go, oh, there's a lot of .aus here.
Yeah,
and the reason for that is .au is quite big. And there's a lot of turnover, and particularly low volume turnover. But if you don't care about that, you can just go, well, I really don't care about.
Let me ask you a quick question. What about .eus or .co.ils or .des? Like I didn't see them right there, but I did see a lot of .com.aus. Is it because that you're Australian, so you're bringing in more feeds from Australia?
No, it's just simply because if we get the data, for example, if CEDO decide they're going to sell a lot of DEs, the data will go straight in there.
Okay, so it includes all country codes.
Yeah, absolutely. This is like a worldwide database, and it just displays it as we get the data. So, some aftermarkets will say, you know what, they'll use our API or they'll set up a feed and they'll dump data directly into this.
Yeah.
Or some aftermarkets, for example, will send us, I don't know, there's one that sends us a PDF, which then we've got to convert to text and put in there. That takes time. So.
Yeah. So right off the top, I can see a 3-letter .com just sold today on one of the auction platforms for $17,500 US, I assume.
Yep.
And then you've got 2 columns there. Who is day 1? Who is day 7? Can you describe that?
Yeah, I can. One of the interesting issues when it came to identifying who buys what domain names is often domain names are bought by third parties, such as ad agencies or escrow services and things. So what generally happens is someone will buy a domain name for a company, they'll hang on to it, and then they'll transfer it. Later. It may take a week, it may take a month. Right. So what we do is we grab the result, but we also grab a who is of the sale at a particular point in time. So you can just mouse over that. You don't have to click on it, and it will say, "Hey, look, this was sold on CEDO. It's still in the transfer service, and in 7 days we're gonna do a who is lookup on it, and in 30 days we're gonna do another one."
Gotcha. So I can see that domain sold at CEDO. That's what it tells me right off the bat.
Yep.
Okay.
And the same with anything else. Some of these things might be under who is privacy, either all or in part, and you can go and work all those little things out. So let's say, for instance, if you wanted to sell a domain name and you think the domain might be worth $1,000, you can, and it was in a particular niche, you can go and run all these little queries and and you can do queries on queries. Right. So you can say, I want all the com domains and I want them containing the word bear, and or I just want all the .nets or .orgs, or I don't want any hyphens or numbers. The usual sort of stuff.
So type in domain there. I want to see all the domains that have the word domain in the domain name. Oh, just the .coms. I'm sorry. Let's do .coms with the word domain in it. And because a lot of investors might want to buy those domains. Maybe it's original domains. So
yep.
So here's an example. Original domain sold today for $250 on who is day 1. It was American Marketing. So you're not sure if American Marketing is who sold it or who bought it?
There'll be who bought it.
Who bought it?
If now this is where it gets a bit grey, which is why we do the who is in increments. Is it depends on when sometimes the transaction will go through, but they won't make the change for a week.
Right.
Or they want, or they'll make it at that particular time. So that's why we said, we've been notified that there's an auction, and as soon as we're notified, we do a lookup, and we'll find who that is there. Now you can come back to that later, and you can say, well, there's something going on, or you can say, well, there's been no change in it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you'll see there's a lot of dummy data or empty data.
Yeah.
With people doing things. It's very weird when you get to this when you get to this level.
So it's not that your system doesn't have the data, it's just that there is not very good data in the system. So if I look down that list, domain name leasing.com, you know, everybody's talking about leasing. Rick Schwartz had his jointventures.com. That says empty name, right? That's sold on July 1st for $550. Do I know what where it's sold through? Does that mean it's sold through Fabulous?
It depends on the idea of this was to really provide a view of the marketplace. You would probably have to go into we haven't matched up the where bit there, but you could go into our domain sales tool and type that in and find out about that domain name. You could find out where it's sold. I'm sure it wouldn't be too hard for us to put in where.
Yeah.
But the purpose of this particular tool was to say, give me a list of who's buying what. Maybe that's a feature we can add. We'll call it the Michael Saga. Where was this name sold?
So if I've got domainleasing.com, I can come here, I can type the word domain, I can see that in auction domain name leasing.com just sold. I may not have thought of it, and then I can go and look up the who is for it. In this case, it's empty, or in this case, it's who is privacy services, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
So that doesn't give me a lead. But if it showed somebody's name, Simon Johnson, then I could contact you and say, hey, I just saw that you bought this domain name.
Yeah, and sometimes, actually more often than not, what we see is who is privacy being added a couple of hours or minutes later. So sometimes we're actually able to get in there before who is privacy is automatically added.
Yeah, so that's important.
Yeah, that's particularly cool. But if you really want to find out who it is, you can run that through, IP intelligence or something, depending on if it's being moved, if the DNS has changed, or a whole host of things. But
so tell me again, Simon, why would I want to use this tool instead of just going to namebio.com and typing in the word domain and looking at domain sales and finding people who are buying domains by recent sales and then looking up the who is of those domains? Why is this better?
You might have just answered that, but we have a domain sales tool that we think is a lot better than domain name bio. We've gone on record many times saying that we believe we have the largest database of domain sales anywhere. Quite happy to be challenged by that. We know it's in the hundreds of thousands. But this particular tool is designed to save you a lot of time because we already have the data here. The domain name, the sold price, we can cut and dice it however you like. You don't have to do who is lookups. You don't have to, schedule them like we have done. So let me give you an example. If you were to go to, as you just said, name bio and say, well, I want to know who just bought XYZ. Who knows if and when they got that record. You're doing a who is lookup now versus however many hours ago that sale might have taken place.
Right.
We do it instantly. It's automated, and we schedule all these things. So for us, we wanted to create a tool that was for professional domain name investors, and we understand that there are some people who don't want to pay money for a tool and would much rather spend all their time doing who is lookups and filling in captures and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. For me, I've got better things to do with my time, as I'm sure most people have.
For $20 a month, I've got something better to do with my time as well. Yeah,
that's right. It's a no-brainer.
Let me ask you this question, as long as I'm thinking of it. If I sign up today for $20 a month, am I going to be grandfathered into that price as long as you run the service, Simon?
Grandfathered into the price.
Are you ever going to raise the pricing?
You know what? We have absolutely no plans to raise the pricing. We've never even discussed plans to raise the pricing. So, I can't promise that we'll never ever hand on heart do it. But it just doesn't make sense for us to do it. We have a system that works and that is quite fast. Yeah. And there's no reason for us to do that.
Yeah. Okay. So the cool thing about this who is that you grab it as soon as you get the data feed, it's automated, and then you look at it 7 days later. So if I go and look at, let's say, I'm looking down this list to see if there's a change. Sure.
Well, let's filter, say, by sold price, right?
Yep.
let's do something a little bit.
So can I get this? I guess my question was, can I get this exact same information by going to the who is history in the domain name section, where it'll show me one record for the first technical contact and then another record 7 days later when the technical contact changed?
Yeah, it should. It's all from the same.
It's the same
place.
Database, right? You're just presenting it differently.
So, there might be, say, instances, and I'm going to show you something.
Yeah. So here's domaincommerce.com. On day one, it was a registrant of Domain Administration J. Williams, and then on day 7, it was a registrant of new registrant of Mom's View LLC.
Yep, and you can see.
And you may miss the J. Williams, who could be a broker, who could be an escrow agent, who could be any number of people who you may want to contact if you only do a who is lookup today.
That's right, and this is the window that I'm talking about, and it depends on how serious you are. You know, some people may say, you know what, I really don't care, and they may have the time to fill in captures and mess around with that sort of stuff.
Sure.
For me, it's like, no, if it's passed through somebody's hands, I want to understand the end-to-end process, because for you, if you're selling domain names, that may present you with a business opportunity to contact that broker and say, hey, you've just sold that to Mom's View LLC.
Right.
I've got a bunch of other domain names. Introduce us.
Exactly.
So that's kind of how it works. That's the power of it all.
That is very cool. All right, let's get into user case number 3. We're going to talk about monitoring now. So people can go in, enter in brands, trademarks, or service marks that they want, their own niche that they want to monitor. Maybe it's a niche that they have a trademark in, or maybe it's nothing that they have a trademark in. They want to monitor a competitor's trademark to see, what they're doing. I know GoDaddy has been very prolific lately in filing for patents, and so maybe you want to monitor that. So walk us through your brand monitoring section and tell us what's significant about it, and then let's do an example.
Okay, so the reason we created this is literally because people spend far too long in Excel spreadsheets tracking domain names, and I'm saying you can do better.
Yeah,
I think for me it's about treating this as a business, not as a hobby, not as a thing you do on the weekend, and getting some rigor around it. So for that reason, we have a domain name management function where you can add your portfolio, and I've just got a few examples in there.
Oh, it's not going to be real domain names you own, Simon? Darn it, I thought we were going to get access to the...
Not in this account. But, you could see everything about a domain name, and you can categorize your domain name. So if you're in a company and you've got legal that own it, or finance that own it, or IT that own it, you can categorize it accordingly. Now... And you can slice and dice and search it, but we won't go into that. I think the juicy stuff is really in trademark monitoring.
Hey, let me ask you about the domain name management real fast, because people are going to say,
sure.
I don't want to, that's cool that I can upload all my domains, and we're going to actually talk about some other stuff maybe if we have enough time regarding that, but how private is my data? How do I know that Simon's not going to look at my domains? How do I know that the rest of his team isn't going to look at them? How do I know that your system is secure and people aren't going to hack in and get a list of every domain name I own when they're under privacy or what have you?
Yeah, look, I'll give you the no holes barred version. I think people who know me and know our business know that we are absolute champions of privacy, and we've been that way for a very long time. So we do have a very, very strong privacy policy. Number one, it is audited by a third party, and you can see that's TrustGuard. You can see their seals on our website for both privacy and for security scanning and PCI. So we're currently the only entity that does this. We were the first entity to do it in a marketplace on one of our aftermarkets called .buyer, and we're certainly the first to do it here. So for us, it's just part of our business. And third of all, being an Aussie, being Australian, Australia has one of the most stringent privacy laws in the world. It's crazy. So, for us, we do absolutely everything to protect data. Now, is anything 100% foolproof? No. But, for us, we make sure that that the data is protected as much as we can. But we also go one step further, and I'll give you an example, and it's a bee that I've got in my bonnet. It's an issue that affects the industry, and that is we don't share data with third parties. So, for instance, if you do a keyword search on our aftermarkets page and you want to find a domain name, what generally happens is this website that you visit will query their partners. They'll send your IP address and your keyword to a third party, or often another aftermarket, and say, give me the results of every domain that you ever searched on. Now, some people might be, astounded by that, and then they reproduce that data on their web page and make it look like, they've done that. We don't. So we have all the data here in one place, and we will only integrate and use data from third-party providers where they comply with our privacy policy.
Gotcha.
So
you grab it all in bulk so that any queries that are done is just between you and the user, and you've got your own privacy policy, and you don't have to worry about anybody else getting data on how many queries or what words or anything like that.
Yep.
Very cool.
And that's just what I'm comfortable with. So, I wouldn't want people looking at my stuff, and having all these other parties and dodgy agreements.
Right.
And I think that's a practice that needs to stop within the domain name industry. And that's something that we've put our hand up and say, you know what, we're not going to be a part of. And that if that means you don't get, there's not an aftermarket that you want on this service, that's probably the reason why.
Yeah.
So it's up to
I'm glad you clarified that, Simon, so that we can see the difference there. All right, so let's get into trademark monitoring. So you're in the My Trademark Alert section right now.
Yep. So I guess if you don't know much about trademarks, and they're often a bit of an interesting field, to say the least. There are specialist trademark attorneys that can give you advice on it. So I'm not a lawyer, so disclaimer, this isn't legal advice.
Yep.
But I can show you how to monitor trademarks and how perhaps you can search for a name. So if I was just to briefly describe trademarks, there are three different areas in this tool that you can use. You can just say, I'm going to add a keyword alert. So perhaps every time someone registers a keyword like Coke, I want it to get an alert sent to me, say via email, to say, here's the trademark and here's all the data. And hey, it's just happened. Something's going on there. Coke's being used in a word.
Right.
Or if I want to say monitor a competitor, for example, there's one there, Google Inc. I can type in a competitor's name and receive an alert every time they do something. Or I can add a trademark application alert. So when an alert comes up containing a particular keyword, or it's in a particular category. So, for example, it might be, say, I don't know, Coke in a particular class, and each trademark has a class. So there might be retailing of goods and things like that. You can do that too. But let me show you how easy it is and how it works. I think that's probably the best thing. And we can do that by say adding a trademark application.
And the application is probably the best, because the application doesn't mean anything has been granted or even reviewed. It's just it's been applied for. Somebody has submitted it to, say, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and it's in their system.
Yep.
Okay.
So what you can do, it's in the system. You can say an application alert will also show you if anything's done to another application. So what you can do is you can say, I can type in a trademark number. If I knew an application that I wanted to keep an eye on, for instance, something that's been applied, you could type in the trademark number. Or you can do things, say, I want to search the United States for the word Coke, and I want to know, here's a list of, I'll just bring that up in the middle, of trademarks that I want to monitor. And it's as simple as that. I mean, you can scroll through and say, well, here's a trademark here, 4824421, and I want to click that, click save, and it's bang, it's in there.
Yeah.
So in terms of how easy it is to monitor a trademark, that's all you have to do.
So that monitors a trademark that has already been submitted. So let's say GoDaddy put in well, that would have been a patent. So this doesn't do patents. This is trademarks, right?
Correct. It's a trademark search. But what you can do, we'll take your example for, if you knew, and I'm sure Bob Parsons is going to love me saying this, but let's use this as an example. If you knew, hypothetically, that someone like GoDaddy always used a particular attorney.
Yep.
And you knew their attorney's name, because
right.
let's say they wanted to hide. I'm not saying GoDaddy would, but I'm just saying a company maybe
sure.
that always uses a particular attorney. You could type in the attorney's name, click save, and the system will then, and there's an example right there, will tell you every time that attorney files a trademark.
Gotcha.
So
people want to follow their own trademarks. So I've got a trademark on Domain Sherpa. I could enter that in, and then it would notify me if any trademarks were granted for that that included that keyword.
Yeah, what it does, it depends on the alert, but basically what it can do is it can monitor trademark changes. So it will tell you, first of all, that there's a trademark there. So you can go and type in a name or a trademark class, and as you can see down the bottom of the screen there, it can say, alert me when you find a trademark that contains the keyword or an exact match to that keyword.
Gotcha.
So
when would I want to track the keyword here versus add application alert?
You could either drop it out on a keyword alert or an application alert. It's really up to you as to how you want.
If a brand new application is being applied for.
Both will, but it depends on how you structure it.
Okay.
Application alert. What application alert does is it wants a keyword or a trademark number, and here you can use some of these values down the bottom and say, give me the exact match. I want a specific one. And the reason we do that is we don't want to overload the system. When we first tried this, we had people say doing the word cat. and then it was chaos. Right. So there's just so many trademarks and words that contain the letters C, A, and T.
Yeah, definitely.
So how this can be used by people is if you're sitting on a domain name that you love, but you perhaps can't afford or don't want to buy a trademark or apply for a trademark, you can just use this system and keep an eye on it and make sure no one else is applying for a trademark. And then obviously you're decreasing the risk of things like reverse domain hijacking and other things.
Right.
So for me, it's like, if you've got a business, you're serious about it, you would want to know if a competitor came out and decided, well, I'm going to trademark Domain Sherpa.
Exactly. Yeah, so if I want to track anything in the domain name space, just to make sure that somebody isn't submitting a trademark that includes Domain Sherpa or something that I'm thinking about in the future, this would be a great tool to just load it and forget about it, and you're going to notify me. So does your system scan the database, the patent and the trademark databases daily, and then I'll expect to receive an email daily?
Yeah, we get the data daily, both in the US and in Australia. We have the data in full. We don't scrape it or do anything like that. Here in Australia, for example, we're one of a few companies that are actually licensed for the data. So, it's all totally above board. Nice. And, our interface is a lot faster than the trademark interface, and certainly a lot more user-friendly.
Well, and, the U.S. Patent and Trademark, they don't even have a next button when you want to scroll through different it's just amazing. So, I will agree with you that the user interface of your system is beautiful. And I got my first notification today of trademark activity. It was so I included Domain Sherpa. I got the email, beautifully formatted email. There's Domain Sherpa right on the top, and so it'll, I assume, notify me from now on if there are any other changes or any other trademarks that include that keyword. Yeah,
that's what it's doing, what it's designed to do.
Great. All right. Anything else about about the brand protection that we should know?
No, look, I think it's an emerging market for the industry, and I think it's one that people should take seriously, given all the issues around trademarks.
Yeah.
And, this trademark, trademark applications for domain names, I've noticed have increased. We've had people at companies try and register trademarks on some of our things. But the only thing I'd say to you is, if you're interested in that area, make sure you get proper legal advice from a qualified trademark attorney.
Definitely. And luckily we have one of those guys sponsoring Domain Sherpa, upper right-hand corner.
There we go.
All right. Fourth use case, monitoring. You had a very interesting tool within the monitoring section. It's for monitoring discussion forums for keywords.
Yeah.
Let's go to that section and walk me through a use case that people may not realize was something they should be thinking about.
Yeah, this is actually a tool that we've had for quite a few years that's been under the radar. It was something that we had on Domainer Income, but it varies. We originally started out by trying to solve the problem of there's so many domain name forums, there's so many places where you can buy domain names and see people advertising domain names. How do you keep track of that?
Yeah.
And I think domain name forums are a great resource where you can pick up domain names pretty cheaply and you can talk to the owner. So what we did was we looked at a number of forums and we said, okay, how do we capture what's going on there and enable people to just come to one place to search multiple forums and then go out and visit that forum and you respond. So I thought to myself, wouldn't it be cool if I was interested in a particular niche, I don't know, weight loss or something, that's the stereotypical one that comes to mind.
Sure.
I could enter a keyword and then within a couple of minutes of someone posting an email on a forum, I would see that post and I could go in and make a bid first and grab that name and secure that sale before
that would be very cool.
Else.
Yeah. And you can't monitor all those discussion forums, so a single interface to do all that is phenomenal.
Yeah. And
so,
go right ahead.
Should we run through an example? What if you typed weight loss as all one word, thinking that it might pull up domain names that are
like that?
That are on there. Yeah.
I don't know what would happen.
Let's see what
happens. Depends on, well, there you go.
All right, so it came back. Show me, so explain these result set. This result set.
Oh, okay. So the result set, what we decided to do was to break up forums into their sub forums and look at the categories associated with that. So if you go into a domain name forum, you'll often see a sub forum like developed websites for sale,
right,
or people just selling domain names or domain names with traffic. And then we also looked at the other column here, actually, which was eBay listings. There's a lot of domain names on eBay. Yeah. So we said that eBay didn't really fit into our aftermarket page.
Right.
So we put it here. So what these results show is within the last 2 days, someone posted someone did a post, and often it's cross-posted to multiple forums.
Right.
So you'll see it here as a duplicate. And they would have used the word weight loss, and that's on Digital Point. So what you can then do is click through, and it will take you through to the post in Digital Point that talked about weight loss contextual links.
Yeah.
Or safe weight loss pill, or on eBay, big detox diet. And that will take you through. It's not an affiliate link or anything like that. It's just a straight link. You can go straight through to that eBay listing. And as you can see, it looks at, the end date and things like that.
Very
now,
cool.
For some of these things, we keep all that historical data in there. We're a big fan of historical data.
Sure.
And it will tell you how many days from today it found that.
Yeah.
So, we wanted to create a way for people to look at forums in that way. Now, we don't have every single domain name forum out there. Some forums, don't want us to do that.
Right. I was just going to ask you, how can I look at a list of the forums that are included so I know which ones I can use your service to query and which ones I have to go visit?
we don't at the moment we don't publish a list, but you could see a list by looking at the links and working and certainly working it out, or even doing searches on abbreviations. But having known, I do know, and should make the disclosure that I do know a lot of the forum owners very well.
Yeah.
So it's probably not appropriate for me to point the finger, but I'd be happy to include more here. If they decided that they wanted to participate. For me, it was, hey, let's just make something available that enables people to come and find domain sales a bit better.
Yeah.
Some forums would much rather you go directly to them.
Well, you're sending them
for
extra
obvious
traffic
reasons.
Potentially.
Yeah, I know, but it comes down to a personal decision.
Sure.
And
is
an
dnforum.com included in your list?
Yeah, look, DN Forum is there. There are some forums. I think when we last looked at it, I think NamePros was one that removed some of our ability to do that. For me, we include all the feeds and things in here, and if the data isn't made available, freely, then we won't be able to provide it.
So I could search on my last name, for example, and see if anybody's talking about me in any of the discussion forums without visiting all those discussion forums.
Yeah, it will only search on specific forums for domain sales.
Oh, okay. All right. So it's really meant for the sales information.
Yeah, it's really only specific sales forums. We don't index general discussions and things like that, and it's only forums that make those available publicly. So we don't use a set of credentials, for example, to log in. We could, but we don't.
Gotcha.
Would much rather just index what's there, what's publicly made available.
Great. So if somebody has a discussion forum and they want to have their forum indexed by you, how can they make that request?
Oh, look, they can just send us an email and we'll add it in there for free.
All right, sounds good. Very cool. And you, if I want to set up just a notification by email for anything weight loss related that you happen to hit, is that possible at this time?
Not right now with this tool, but we may make it if if people said, hey, look, we want this, we would do it. We already do email notifications on everything else on domain names and trademarks. So.
All right, so the last case we have, Simon, is the user case is monetization. You have a way to match marketplace domain names with affiliate offers. Can you walk us through that tool?
Sure. There's a affiliate domain finder tool under domain names. And the reason we created this tool, this is a little bit of a secret squirrel tool that we've had for a while. We wanted to solve a problem where affiliate marketers and domain investors were building websites around affiliate offers. So they'd join an affiliate network and they'd say, all right, I need to go out and buy a domain name in a particular niche. So what we did was we would match up domain names that are in various marketplaces that we have in our index with a bunch of affiliate products, and we would merge that data, and there's a lot of data there, into just one interface and give people a sense of is this affiliate offer going to work for them, and how much does the affiliate offer cost, how much am I going to get paid? So I think the best way to do it is just to demonstrate it. Now, I think it's important to note that, there are a lot of products, and in particular, we're using ClickBank in this instance. So we're matching all the ClickBank products with domain names. So do you have a keyword, or do you want me to just think of one?
Let's say that people are in the domain name industry and they're just looking for domain names. Is there, they want to buy domain name websites and maybe put up some affiliate offers?
Michael, your audio and video have gone. I can't really hear.
Gone out again. I still see myself. Can you hear me now? You can't hear me?
Yeah, I can hear. Your audio is really bad. I can just hear you, and your video looks like
Hold on one
Your
second. Let me
video's
check.
not good.
Eyeglasses Yeti. Huh. Everything looks okay on my side. Can you hear me now, or is it still a problem?
It sounds like a CB radio.
Wow. Okay. Let me.
Hang on. Skype's just popped up a call quality. The connection speed between you is slow. Both of you should stop file sharing programs, downloads, and speed up your connection. Yeah, great.
All right. Can you hear me okay now, Simon?
Yeah, I can hear you okay.
Okay.
I couldn't hear what you said before though.
Okay, so let me rephrase it because
maybe
you look good.
Maybe we should just start again.
Yeah, you look good and sound good, and I can see myself. I wouldn't say that I look good, but I think it's being recorded properly on my side. So let's use an example.
Maybe start from the top.
Yeah, let's use an example of domain names. Where somebody wants to find domain names to offer affiliates, or maybe they just want to find affiliates for their domain name blog. Can you look through using this tool and find domain name offers that are currently in ClickBank to potentially include?
Yeah, so if let's say you're an affiliate and you can search on domain name or product name, or if there's a vendor that you particularly like, but I think maybe the stereotypical one I used before is weight or weight loss.
Okay.
So let's maybe try that. Now that's a big term.
That's going to be a massive one, yeah.
That's it's pretty big. So right now, 769 domains and a whole heap of data. Now I need to sort of put this data in context. Down here, you will have a list of domain names, and they'll probably be from an aftermarket somewhere. You can see actually at the some of those are Namejet names. Some will be Snap names. Some will be from all over the place.
Oh, okay. So I see how this tool works. So it's looking at domain names that are in the aftermarket right now. So they're for sale.
Correct. They're for sale now. So these are domain names that you can buy today.
Okay.
And that's in that column. In the left column.
Not being dropped, not expiring. These are available for sale, and you want to say, you want to look to see what offers you could potentially sell off of that domain name.
Correct.
Okay.
And we're just using the ClickBank affiliate marketplace as an example.
Gotcha.
So in ClickBank, what you can do is search by, say, gravity, which is essentially a measure of popularity.
Right.
So, for example, you can say, well, reducebodyweight.info is a domain name, and there's a ClickBank product here, and you can just hover over it, and it will talk to you about diet guides, and it will tell you all the information and how much you get paid for $8.42 from an initial sale. So if you're into that, you might go, great, I think that's a good name and I'll take it. Or if you want to read more about the description, or you might see some other keywords that are associated that we've pulled out that might be related, you can do that. So the beauty of this tool is if you're an affiliate marketer and you're into that space, you're always looking to build your portfolio. You're always looking for new names. You might be, you might like .info names because they rank well, or you might prefer .com because, .com is king.
Right.
Or you might be in a country and you go, oh, weights for sale. I like that. And you can view things like exact match. You can see down the bottom there. So the idea behind this was, let's put as much info as we can on one screen so you can just make a quick decision and say, okay, I'm going to get that domain and I'm going to pay however much money for it.
Yep.
And I'm going to match it up with that affiliate offer. Go do it.
Right.
And for those people who are, have staff or are outsourcing this, it's a really quick way to say, all right, I found a name, go buy it, and there's the affiliate offer, go build me a site.
Right.
Or go use our existing template for it and go make it happen.
Yeah, very cool. And so right now you have ClickBank products in there. And if you mouse over one of those, you can look at what the details are of that offer. So if you just mouse over one, for example.
Big one.
I can see...
No weights.
Just mouse over any of them. I just want to take a look at
Yeah,
the
sure.
details.
I'll
So
scroll right down.
gravity, category, popularity. Does it tell me? Okay, so I can make 51% of the sale. The initial dollar per sale is $10. So if I offered that product, whatever it is, $10.45 a sale, I'd make 50% of that. And so
Yep.
that domain name might be worthwhile. And so I would just then click on the domain name and it would open up that domain name for sale on some aftermarket?
Yep.
Okay. And can I look to see how much it is just by mousing over the domain name?
It depends on, well, you can go into our aftermarkets tool and look that up. What we generally provide here is just the stats.
The stats of it.
So you can click on it and it will take you through and you can go and see that, that price in that aftermarket. But here it's about kind of sorting, doing a lot of sorting and trying to find out if it's worthwhile or not. So the problem that we had was that we're trying to solve was I'm interested in weight domains. I want to see by the most popular ones, the most popular products being sold in that affiliate products in that market. So there's one, there, for example, your initial sales $49 and you get 75% of it. So that's why it's popular.
Got it. So the real purpose of this is to find new domain names that you want to build out and offer affiliate links on those websites. For domain names you already own, you can just go to ClickBank and type in keywords and find products that way. But this is for looking for additional domain names you want to purchase. Yeah.
Or literally, I mean, you could use this tool if you don't have to. You could completely ignore that column. If you had a list of names and let's say you had a whole heap of weight names or a whole heap of
so if I own weightloss.com, I could just type in weightloss.com and it'll show me
you could just type in weight and it will show you all the ClickBank products associated with it.
Regardless of,
Or I think dating might be another one. I think I've never tried this, but if you search by gravity, see, there's a huge gravity. Well, they obviously haven't got that data in there.
No,
that's interesting.
No initial sale. All right. Well, very cool tool for people to take a look at. So if people are signing up for the service and they're trying out these different tools and they're using it and they're saying, I think this tool could be improved by doing this on it, what's the way that they should notify you about that, Simon? Because I know, I love it when people email into Domain Sherpa and say, you should interview so-and-so, or you should have somebody talk about this. It's a topic that I don't understand. Is there a way that they could do that easily on IP Neighborhood? And what do you suggest so that it goes to the right place?
Look, they can use the contact form there or log a support ticket.
So go into support right in the upper right-hand corner there?
Yeah.
And just say...
And say, hey, I'd love to see this.
Yep.
Because the platform is so new and has so many products under one roof.
Yep.
I'd love to just continue to build out and add more features and things. So if there's something that if you sat back and said, well, my ideal tool would do X, you're probably not alone, and we're happy to accommodate that and make some changes and give you something that works.
Very cool. All right, so here's the final question for you, Simon. People are able to see parts of your product today. They can sign up for either a price of a coffee and try out your system for a full day, or they can sign up for just $20 a month and cancel it anytime they want. But what they don't know is your roadmap. If they sign up today, what's in store for ipneighborhood.com in the upcoming weeks and months? What are you working on that is soon to be released?
Well, what we're concentrating on now is really adding more data and more features to the system. We've got a lot of data that we're bringing online. We do it every day. I can tell you, actually, as of yesterday, we're in the process of adding another 40 million new CCTLDs into the system. So, for us, it's really getting that depth and breadth in there and establishing a solid base. And over the years we've amassed a lot of data, and for us it's about how do we get that online and how do we make that accessible in a very easy manner so people can just get what they want quickly and easily and cost effectively. So
right. Okay, so nothing specific, but you're bringing on more data, and you know, your UI is nice and clean. So if people have additional suggestions for how to improve it so that they can get notified, so that they don't have to check it every day, send in a support ticket.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'll give you one little thing that we're doing.
All right, I love it.
We are, and some of you may notice, we have made some announcements regarding API use and partners and things like that. And I think you'll be seeing a lot more of that, and a lot more people and companies and aftermarkets using the API and our data in different ways. And that could be, people who've used their own or launched their own little custom tools to aftermarkets and platforms. So the direction that we're heading in is really, we want to be a wholesale provider of data to the industry, and we're going to put a huge amount of effort behind that to make sure we've got a product that really solves people's problems, and that's something modern and fresh and easy to use.
Very cool. If you have specific questions for Simon, please post them in the comments below the video, and we'll ask Simon to come back and answer as many as he can.
Sure.
Simon, if someone wants to contact you and say thank you for coming on the show and sharing what you've learned and your background and how to use the tools best, what's the best way for them to contact you?
To contact me personally?
Yeah, just say thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, look, they could go to simonjohnson.co, or they can visit me on Facebook on my Facebook page, or even contact me through IP Neighborhood. I don't mind, or post a comment below on Michael's website. I think that'd be great.
Excellent. Simon Johnson, director of IPNeighborhood.com. Thank you for coming on the show, sharing your knowledge, and thank you for being a domain Sherpa.
Thank you.
Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.